Distrustful Arab millionaire pretended to be disinherited and broke to test his poor girlfriend, then was shocked to see how she reacted. Alexander Karim stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office in downtown San Francisco, watching the fog roll in from the bay. At 32, he was one of the youngest CEOs in Silicon Valley, having inherited the reins of Karim Enterprises from his father, a successful Arab-American tech mogul who had revolutionized sustainable energy solutions in the early 2000s. The view from the 50th floor should have been satisfying, a testament to his family's success since immigrating to America 3 generations ago. Instead, it felt like a gilded cage. Alex, as he preferred to be called by the few people he trusted, carried the weight of his family's expectations on his shoulders, along with a deep-seated skepticism about human nature that had taken root over years of disappointment. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Mr. Karim, the board members are waiting in the conference room for the quarterly meeting." Alex straightened his designer suit and gathered his thoughts. Another day, another performance. As the confident, unwavering leader everyone expected him to be, the board meeting went as usual. Presentations, projections, and the constant pressure to maintain the company's upward trajectory. But today, something felt different. The walls of his carefully constructed world seemed to be closing in. After the meeting, his cousin and childhood friend Sarah caught up with him in the hallway. "You need to get out more, Alex. All work and no play makes for a very dull billionaire," she teased, but her eyes held genuine concern. "I get out." "Plenty," he replied defensively, thinking of the countless charity galas and business functions he attended. Sarah rolled her eyes. "Those don't count. When was the last time you did something just for yourself? Something that wasn't about the company or maintaining the family image?" The question hit harder than he expected. When was the last time? The memories that surfaced weren't pleasant. His last serious relationship had ended 2 years ago, when he discovered his then-girlfriend had been feeding information to a competing company. Before that, there had been others who had seen him as nothing more than a stepping stone to wealth and status. "I'm fine, Sarah," he said, his tone indicating the end of the conversation. But his cousin wasn't done. "The Children's Future Foundation is hosting their annual fundraiser next week. As our biggest charitable partner, you should make an appearance. And before you say it's just another business function," she added quickly, seeing his expression, "I've arranged for it to be held at the Golden Spoon. It's this amazing little restaurant in North Beach. No fancy hotel ballrooms, no paparazzi, just good food and good people." Alex raised an eyebrow. The Golden Spoon? He'd never heard of it. "Since when do we host major events at small restaurants?" "Since I convinced the board that we need to support local businesses. Besides, their food is incredible. The owner's daughter runs the front of house and she's transformed the place, you'll see." Sarah's phone buzzed. "Think about it. You might actually enjoy yourself for once." As Sarah walked away, Alex found himself intrigued despite his reservations. He pulled out his phone and searched for the Golden Spoon. The reviews were impressive but modest. No pretension, no artificial hype, just honest praise for good food and warm service. Something about its simplicity appealed to him. Later, that evening in his expansive but empty penthouse apartment, Alex thought about Sarah's words. His life had become a series of calculated moves, each decision weighed against its potential impact on the company and family name. Even his charitable work, while genuine in its goals, had become another arena where he had to constantly guard against those seeking to exploit his position. He walked to his private study, where a wall of family photos told the story of the Karim legacy. His grandfather, arriving in America with nothing but dreams and determination. His father, building an empire from the ground up. And now him, tasked with not only maintaining but expanding that legacy. But lately the success felt hollow. Every relationship, every interaction seemed tainted by the shadow of his wealth and position. People showed him the face they thought he wanted to see, said the words they thought he wanted to hear, all while calculating what they could gain from him. The fundraiser invitation sat on his desk, the elegant cardstock bearing the foundation's logo alongside the restaurant's simple one. Perhaps Sarah was right. Perhaps he needed something different, something real. Alex picked up his phone and called his assistant. "Clear my schedule for next Thursday evening," he said, "and confirm my attendance at the Children's Future Foundation fundraiser." He didn't know it yet, but that simple decision would set in motion events that would challenge everything he thought he knew about trust, love, and the true meaning of wealth. The Golden Spoon was nothing like what Alex had expected. Nestled between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop in North Beach, the restaurant's warm yellow lights spilled onto the sidewalk, creating an inviting glow in the early evening darkness. The building's facade was simple but well maintained, with window boxes full of herbs and edible flowers, a small touch that spoke of attention to detail and care. Inside, the space had been transformed for the fundraiser, while somehow maintaining its intimate charm. White lights twinkled from the exposed brick walls, and the usually separate tables had been rearranged to create comfortable conversation areas. The scent of fresh-baked bread and aromatic spices filled the air, making Alex's mouth water despite his usual indifference to food. "Mr. Karim, welcome to the Golden Spoon." A young woman approached him with a genuine smile that reached her eyes, something he wasn't used to seeing at these events. She wore a simple black dress that was professional yet comfortable, and her dark hair was pulled back in a neat braid. "I'm Isabella Martinez, but everyone calls me Bella. I'll be coordinating the event tonight." There was something immediately disarming about her presence. She didn't simper or fawn over him like many people did, nor did she seem intimidated. Instead, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that came from knowing her work and doing it well. "The past appetizers will begin shortly," she continued, "but would you like to try our signature welcome drink? It's a house-made lavender lemonade, non-alcoholic, of course, since we know not everyone drinks." The thoughtful consideration surprised him. "That sounds perfect, actually. I rarely drink at these events." "Smart man," Bella smiled, gesturing to a nearby server who brought over a crystal glass filled with pale purple liquid, garnished with a fresh lavender sprig. "Keeps your head clear for all those important conversations about changing the world." Was that a touch of playful sarcasm in her voice? Before Alex could respond, Sarah appeared at his side. "I see you've met our amazing hostess," his cousin beamed. "Bella's been instrumental in planning this whole evening. Wait until you try the food. Her father's recipes combined with her modern touches are absolutely incredible." "You're too kind, Sarah," Bella replied, her cheeks coloring slightly. "I just try to honor the spirit of my father's cooking while making it accessible to a new generation. Speaking of which, I should check on the kitchen. Please enjoy yourselves." As Bella walked away, Alex found his eyes following her. There was something refreshing about her lack of pretense, the way she spoke about her work with quiet pride, rather than false modesty or overwhelming ambition. The evening progressed, and Alex found himself continuously aware of Bella's presence as she moved through the room. She seemed to anticipate needs before they arose, smoothly handling everything from a guest's dietary restrictions to a minor wine spill with grace and efficiency. More than once, he caught snippets of her conversations with other guests, genuine discussions about their families, their hopes for the foundation's work, their favorite dishes. During dinner, Alex was seated near the kitchen entrance, giving him a view of Bella's interactions with her staff. She treated everyone with the same respect and warmth, from the dishwashers to the senior servers. Between courses, he overheard her speaking rapid-fire Spanish with an older cook who could only be her father, their affectionate banter punctuated by laughter. "The soup is amazing," Alex commented when Bella passed by his table. "I've never tasted anything quite like it." "That's my grandmother's recipe," she replied, pausing for a moment. "She used to say that good food should taste like memories feel. The base is traditional, but I added a few modern elements, like the crispy quinoa garnish. Some of our regular customers say it reminds them of home, even if they're from completely different cultures." As she spoke about food and family, her whole face lit up. Alex found himself wanting to keep her talking, to understand more about this person who seemed so genuinely connected to her work and her heritage. "And what about you?" he found himself asking. "What memories does it bring back?" Bella's expression softened. "Sunday afternoons in my grandmother's kitchen, all of us crowded around the table, fighting over who got to scrape the pot. She laughed softly. "But I should let you enjoy your meal. The main course will be out shortly, my father's special creation for tonight." Throughout the rest of the evening, Alex observed how Bella handled various situations with grace and authenticity. When a guest complained about their table placement, she managed to make them feel special while being fair to everyone else. When a server dropped a tray of desserts, she jumped in to help clean up, then turned the moment into an opportunity to showcase their backup plan, individual tableside flambés that had everyone delighted. As the event wound down, Alex found himself lingering, helping Sarah wrap up the final details. The foundation had exceeded its fundraising goals for the evening, and the guests had been thoroughly impressed by both the venue and the experience. "Admit it," Sarah said as they waited for their cars. "This was better than another stuffy hotel ballroom." Alex nodded, his mind still on Bella's warm smile and genuine manner. "It was different," he admitted, "in a good way." What he didn't say was how refreshing it had been to spend an evening in a place where his last name didn't seem to matter quite so much, where the real currency was the quality of the food and the authenticity of the experience. As his driver pulled up to the curb, Alex found himself wondering if the Golden Spoon accepted reservations for regular dinners and what it might be like to return as just another guest. In the weeks following the fundraiser, Alex found himself drawn back to the Golden Spoon with increasing frequency. He told himself it was the food, the way each dish seemed to tell a story, the perfect balance of familiar comfort and innovative touches. But if he was honest, it was more than that. It was the way the restaurant felt alive, filled with genuine laughter and conversation, rather than the artificial politeness he was used to. And then there was Bella. She treated him exactly the same way she treated every other customer, with warmth and attention, but no special deference. The first time he returned after the fundraiser, she'd actually made him wait for a table, despite knowing exactly who he was. "I'm sorry, Mr. Karim," she'd said firmly, though her eyes held a hint of amusement, "but these lovely people have been waiting for 20 minutes. I can't in good conscience seat you before them." Rather than feeling offended, he'd found it refreshing. He waited at the bar, sipping her grandmother's special horchata, watching her work. She seemed to be everywhere at once, helping servers, chatting with regulars, running food when things got busy. Her father, Antonio, would emerge from the kitchen occasionally, his booming laugh filling the restaurant as he shared jokes with long-time customers. On his third visit, she finally had time to talk. The dinner rush had wound down and he was lingering over a cup of their house blend coffee. "You know," she said, sliding into the chair across from him, "when Sarah told me her cousin was the famous Alexander Karim, I Googled you. Expected to find stories about wild parties and yacht adventures." She grinned. "Instead, I found patents for sustainable energy technology and articles about educational initiatives in underserved communities. You're full of surprises." "Disappointed by the lack of scandal?" he asked, finding himself smiling back. "Impressed, actually, though you could loosen up a little. I've never seen anyone eat tiramisu with such serious concentration." Their conversations became a highlight of his visits. She told him about growing up in the restaurant, about her dreams of expanding it while staying true to its roots. He shared stories about his grandfather's early days in America, the challenges of balancing tradition with innovation. One evening, after closing time, he helped her stack chairs while she talked about her plans for the future. "I've been saving every spare penny," she explained, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "The building next door is coming up for sale soon. If I can manage the down payment, we could expand the kitchen, add a small event space, maybe even start cooking classes for neighborhood kids. I could help with that," Alex offered automatically. Her business loan through Karim Enterprises would be— "No," Bella cut him off firmly. "That's very kind, but no. This needs to be something I do on my own. Besides," she added with a playful smile, "mixing business with pleasure never ends well." The phrase hung in the air between them, acknowledging the growing attraction they both felt but hadn't voiced. Alex found himself studying her profile as she wiped down tables, noticing the way she tucked loose strands of hair behind her ear, the quiet grace in her movements. Their worlds began to intersect in unexpected ways. When Alex hosted a tech conference, he insisted on having the Golden Spoon cater the event. Bella's innovative take on traditional dishes had the attendees raving, and several of them became regular customers at the restaurant. She introduced him to her favorite hidden spots in the city, a tiny bookstore that stayed open late, a rooftop garden maintained by local seniors, a street market where vendors knew her by name. He showed her his grandfather's first workshop, now preserved as a memorial to innovation and perseverance. One foggy evening, as they walked back to the restaurant after exploring a local art gallery, Bella stopped suddenly. "Why do you keep coming back here, Alex, and don't say it's just the food?" The question caught him off guard, but her direct gaze demanded honesty. "Because when I'm here, I don't feel like Alexander Karim, CEO and heir to a fortune. I'm just Alex, the guy who's terrible at rolling pasta but tries anyway. The one who always orders extra hot sauce even though it makes him hiccup." Bella's expression softened. "You know, money doesn't impress me. Never has. My parents taught me that. True wealth is in the relationships we build, the lives we touch. Everything else is just details." "Is that why you won't let me help with the expansion?" he asked, stepping closer. "Partly," she admitted. "But mostly it's because I need to know I can do this myself. That I'm more than just Antonio Martinez's daughter or," she hesitated, "or Alexander Karim's friend." The way she said friend made his heart skip a beat. They stood there in the fog, the city lights creating halos around them, so close he could smell the lavender in her hair. For a moment, he thought about closing the distance between them, about finally acknowledging the tension that had been building for weeks. Instead, he stepped back, remembering every other time he'd let his guard down, every betrayal that had followed. "It's getting late," he said softly. "You should get back." Something flickered in Bella's eyes, disappointment perhaps, or understanding. "Right," she said, her professional smile sliding back into place. "Early delivery tomorrow. Good night, Alex." He watched her walk away, disappearing into the restaurant's warm glow. That night, in his quiet penthouse, he realized that for the first time in years his wealth felt like a barrier rather than a shield, and he had no idea what to do about it. Marcus Chen, Alex's distant cousin and longtime rival, sat in his sleek downtown office, scrolling through photos on his tablet. They showed Alex and Bella walking together, laughing outside the restaurant, sharing coffee at a small cafe. Each image made his frown deepen. As vice president of operations at Karim Enterprises, Marcus had always lived in Alex's shadow. Despite his own impressive achievements, he was constantly reminded that he wasn't part of the main family line. The company would never be his, no matter how hard he worked or how many innovations he brought to the table. But now, watching Alex's growing attachment to this restaurant owner's daughter, Marcus saw an opportunity. He picked up his phone and dialed a familiar number. "Sarah, have you seen your cousin lately? I'm worried about him." Across town, Bella was facing her own challenges. The building she hoped to buy for the expansion had attracted other interested parties, and the asking price had risen significantly. She sat at her small desk in the restaurant's office, surrounded by spreadsheets and loan applications. Her mother, Elena, brought her a cup of chamomile tea. "Mi amor, you're working too hard. Your father and I didn't build this place in a day." "I know, Mama," Bella sighed. "But this opportunity won't wait. If we don't expand now, we might never get the chance. The neighborhood is changing so fast." Elena studied her daughter's tired face. "And this has nothing to do with your new friend? The handsome businessman who keeps finding excuses to visit. Alex, no, this is about us, about our family's legacy." But Bella couldn't quite meet her mother's knowing gaze. "Ah, mi cielo," Elena said softly. "You've always been terrible at lying. Just be careful. Men like him, they live in a different world." "Alex is different," Bella insisted. "He's not what people think. He's kind and genuine and—" She trailed off, remembering the way he'd pulled back that night in the fog. That afternoon, Alex arrived at the restaurant earlier than usual, looking troubled. Bella was training a new server, but she could tell something was wrong. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. Somewhere private? They went up to the roof garden where Bella grew some of her herbs. The city stretched out below them, painted golden by the setting sun. "My board of directors is concerned," Alex began, pacing nervously. "They think I'm getting distracted. There are rumors about us in the business papers." Bella felt her heart sink. "Rumors? About what? We're just friends." "Are we?" Alex stopped pacing, turning to face her. "Because I don't know anymore, Bella. When I'm with you, everything else falls away. For the first time in my life, I feel like someone sees me for who I am, not what I own." "But," Bella prompted, hearing the hesitation in his voice, "but every time I start to trust these feelings, I remember every other time I thought something was real only to discover it was all an act. People have been using me for my name, my money, my influence since I was old enough to understand what those things meant." Bella felt a flash of hurt, then anger. "Is that what you think I'm doing? After all these months? No! God, no!" Alex ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "That's what terrifies me. You're the first person who's ever made me want to forget all those lessons, to just take a chance." "Then take it," Bella said simply. "Stop overthinking everything. Stop letting your past dictate your future." He stepped closer, reaching for her hand. "How can you be so sure, so fearless?" "I'm not fearless," she admitted. "I'm terrified. Of failing, of letting my family down, of—" She squeezed his hand. "Of feeling this way about someone who might never fully trust me." The moment hung between them, full of possibility. Then Alex's phone buzzed. Another message from Marcus about an urgent board matter. Reality crashed back in. "I have to go," he said reluctantly. "There's a situation at the company." Bella withdrew her hand, her expression carefully neutral. "Of course. The company always comes first, right?" "Bella." "It's fine, Alex, really. You should go. I have work to do anyway." As he left, neither of them noticed Marcus watching from his parked car across the street, a satisfied smile playing across his face. Phase 1 of his plan was complete. Plant the seeds of doubt in both the board and Alex's mind. Now it was time for Phase 2. Later that night, as Bella closed up the restaurant alone, she found an envelope slipped under the door. Inside was a bank statement showing a massive transfer from a Kareem Enterprises account to the Golden Spoon's business account, a transfer she had never requested or received. Along with it was a note. "Thought you might want to know who you're really dealing with. Some people just can't help trying to buy what they want." Bella stared at the documents, her hands shaking. Had Alex been trying to help her behind her back, despite knowing how she felt about maintaining her independence? Or was someone trying to drive them apart? Either way, the trust she'd been building with Alex suddenly felt as fragile as a soap bubble in the wind. Bella spent the night tossing and turning, the mysterious bank statement burning a hole in her desk drawer. By morning, she had made up her mind. She needed answers, and she needed them directly from Alex. She sent him a text asking to meet, somewhere neutral, away from both the restaurant and his office. They agreed to meet at the Japanese tea garden in Golden Gate Park, a place they had visited together once before. The morning fog was just lifting as Bella found Alex waiting by the moon bridge, looking as troubled as she felt. "We need to talk," they both said simultaneously, then shared a weak laugh that did nothing to ease the tension. "Ladies first," Alex offered, gesturing to a nearby bench. Bella pulled the bank statement from her bag and handed it to him without comment. She watched his face carefully as he examined it, seeing confusion, then shock, then anger flash across his features. "This is fake," he said immediately. "I would never—" "Bella, you have to believe me. I know how important your independence is to you. I would never go behind your back like this." "I want to believe you," she said quietly. "But someone went to a lot of trouble to create this. Why? Who would want to make me think you were trying to buy my trust?" Alex's jaw tightened. "I have some ideas, but first I need to tell you something else. Something I've been struggling with." They walked through the garden as Alex explained about the board's concerns, about Marcus's increasing attempts to undermine his leadership, about the whispers that he was losing focus on the company's future. Yesterday, Marcus presented a proposal. To the board, Alex continued. He wants to launch a chain of high-end restaurants under the Karim Enterprises banner. He's suggesting we start by acquiring existing successful establishments in prime locations. Bella stopped walking. Like the Golden Spoon. He never mentioned your restaurant specifically, but the implications were clear. He knows how much time I've been spending here, how much He hesitated. How much I care about you. And what did you say? Bella asked, her voice carefully controlled. I shut it down immediately. Told the board it would be a departure from our core mission. But Marcus didn't back down. He suggested that my judgment might be compromised, that my personal feelings were clouding my business sense. Bella absorbed this information, her mind racing. So the bank statement has to be Marcus's work, Alex finished. He's trying to drive a wedge between us. Make you doubt me, make the board doubt me. They reached the tea house where an elderly Japanese woman was carefully preparing tea in the traditional way. They watched in silence for a moment, both finding calm in the precise, practiced movements. There's something else you should know, Bella said finally. The owner of the building next door, he called yesterday, said he received an incredible offer from a development company, way above market value. They want to turn it into a luxury restaurant. Alex closed his eyes. Let me guess. The development company is a subsidiary of Chen Holdings. I couldn't trace the ownership, but the timing seems suspicious. Bella turned to face him. Alex, I need to know something. If you could go back before all this started, would you still have walked into my restaurant that night? The question caught him off guard. What do you mean? Look at everything that's happening. Your position in the company is being questioned. My family's business is under threat. Maybe some worlds aren't meant to mix. Don't say that, Alex said, fiercely. Meeting you, it woke something in me I thought was dead. The ability to trust, to hope, to... He broke off, frustrated. I've spent my whole life protecting myself, building walls. Then you come along with your passion and your honesty and your amazing family, and suddenly those walls feel like a prison instead of a fortress. Bella felt tears threatening and blinked them back. But what if Marcus is right? What if your feelings for me are affecting your judgment? They are, Alex admitted, but not in the way he thinks. Being with you, seeing how you run your restaurant, how you treat your employees and customers. It's reminded me why my grandfather started this company in the first place. Not just to make money, but to make a difference. To build something meaningful. A group of tourists passed by, their chatter and camera clicks breaking the moment. Bella stood up, needing to move, to think. I have to get back to the restaurant, she said. We're testing new recipes for the fall menu today. Bella, please. Alex reached for her hand. Don't let Marcus win. Don't let him make you doubt what we have. She squeezed his hand once before letting go. I don't doubt what we have, Alex. I doubt whether we can have it without destroying everything else we've both worked for. As she walked away, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. If you care about him, you'll end it now. Some people aren't meant to cross the line society draws for them. Back at the tea house, Alex received his own message from Marcus. Emergency board meeting called for tomorrow morning. Topic: leadership stability and succession planning. Maybe it's time we discussed a compromise. The fog was rolling back in, thick and heavy, obscuring the carefully manicured paths of the garden. Somewhere in the distance, a wind chime sounded, its clear notes carrying a warning of storms to come. Elena Martinez knew something was wrong the moment Bella walked into the kitchen. Her daughter's eyes were red-rimmed, and she moved with the careful precision that always meant she was trying to hold herself together. Mama, Papa, Bella called out, we need to have a family meeting. Antonio emerged from the walk-in freezer, his usual jovial expression fading as he saw his daughter's face. Mi pequeña, what's wrong? Over cups of strong Cuban coffee, Bella explained everything. The fake bank statement, Marcus's plans, the mysterious texts. Her parents listened in silence, exchanging worried glances. I always knew that boy was trouble, Antonio said finally, but without his usual fire. Not because of his money, but because of how he made you smile. The bigger the joy, the bigger the risk of pain. Antonio, Eleanor chided gently, Our daughter doesn't need poetry right now, she needs solutions. She turned to Bella. What does your heart tell you about Alex? Not about his cousin or his company, about him? Bella stared into her coffee cup, that he's fighting the same battle I am. Between what we want and what everyone else expects from us. Meanwhile, across town, Alex was having his own family discussion. Sarah had arrived at his penthouse unannounced, armed with their grandmother's baklava recipe and determination. Marcus is playing dirty, she said, rolling out phyllo dough with aggressive precision. But you're letting him win by pulling away from Bella. I'm trying to protect her, Alex argued. You should see what this is doing to her family, to her business. Sarah threw a handful of chopped nuts at him. That's not your decision to make. God, you're just like grandfather sometimes, so convinced you know what's best for everyone, that you forget to actually ask them what they want. The comparison struck home. Their grandfather, for all his brilliance, had nearly lost their grandmother by making decisions for her own good in the early days of their marriage. The board meeting tomorrow, Alex said slowly. Marcus thinks he has me cornered. But what if? Back at the Golden Spoon, the dinner rush was in full swing. Bella moved through the dining room on autopilot, her mind elsewhere. She nearly dropped a tray when she saw who was sitting at table 7. Marcus Chen smiled up at her, perfectly at ease. Miss Martinez, I hope you don't mind me dropping by. I've heard such wonderful things about your restaurant. What do you want? Bella asked quietly, conscious of nearby customers. Just to talk. About Alex, about the future, about opportunities. He gestured to the empty seat across from him. 5 minutes of your time could save everyone a lot of trouble. Bella felt a familiar fire rising in her chest, the same determination that had helped her parents keep the restaurant going through recession and setbacks. No, Marcus blinked. Excuse me? I said no. Whatever game you're playing, whatever scheme you're running, I won't be part of it. If you want to eat dinner, I'll send your server over. If you want to threaten me or my family's business, you can talk to our lawyer. She turned to walk away, then paused. And Marcus, the next time you want to forge bank documents, you might want to check the routing numbers more carefully. My bank hasn't used that format since they merged last year. As she walked back to the kitchen, Bella felt lighter than she had in days. She pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to Alex. Some people aren't meant to cross the lines society draws for them. Good thing my parents taught me that some lines deserve to be crossed. Across town, Alex read the message and smiled for the first time since that morning. He turned to Sarah, who was putting the finishing touches on the baklava. I need your help with something. Actually, I need everyone's help. You, Bella's family, even some of our regular customers. It's time to show Marcus and the board what real leadership looks like. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Now that sounds like the cousin I know and love. What's the plan? First, Alex said, reaching for his phone, we need to call an old friend at the Securities and Exchange Commission. I think they'll be very interested in some of Marcus's recent business dealings. As the sun set over San Francisco, two families on opposite sides of the city were making plans, sharing meals, and remembering what really mattered. The fog rolled in as it always did, but this time it felt less like an omen and more like a protective blanket, wrapping around the city's secrets and hopes for tomorrow. The Karim Enterprises boardroom buzzed with tension as board members filed in for the emergency meeting. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the foggy San Francisco skyline, but all eyes were on Alex as he stood at the head of the massive mahogany table, looking surprisingly calm. Marcus sat halfway. Down the table, a folder of documents placed precisely in front of him, his expression carefully neutral. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment, building his case piece by piece. The whispers, the leaked photos, the carefully planted doubts about Alex's judgment, everything had led to this. Before we begin, Alex said, his voice steady, I'd like to introduce some special guests. He pressed a button on his phone and the boardroom doors opened. In walked Antonio and Elena Martinez, followed by Sarah, and to everyone's surprise, William Chen, Marcus's father and former board member. Bella was notably absent, but her presence was felt in the confident way her parents carried themselves in this unfamiliar territory. What is this? Marcus demanded, half rising from his chair. This is a closed board meeting. Sit down, son, William Chen said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of decades of business experience. For once in your life, listen before you speak. Alex nodded to Antonio, who stepped forward. My name is Antonio Martinez. 25 years ago, I came to this country with a dream and a handful of family recipes. Today, my restaurant, The Golden Spoon, employs 30 people, provides culinary training to at-risk youth, and serves as a gathering place for our community. Elena picked up where her husband left off. When Mr. Karim first came to our restaurant, we worried he would change our daughter, try to pull her into his world of high finance and corporate dealings. Instead, we watched as our world changed him. Sarah distributed folders to each board member. Inside, you'll find detailed reports on the Golden Spoon's community impact initiatives, their financial growth over the past 5 years, and, most importantly, documentation of recent attempts to manipulate their business through fraudulent means. Marcus's face paled slightly as William Chen opened his folder. Including, the older man said gravely, evidence of unauthorized use of company resources to create false financial documents and pressure legitimate local businesses. This isn't about a restaurant, Alex said, commanding the room's attention. This is about the future of Karim Enterprises. My grandfather built this company on innovation and integrity. He understood that real leadership isn't about maintaining power, it's about empowering others. He clicked a remote and the boardroom screens came to life, showing photographs and videos of the Golden Spoon's community programs, cooking classes for local kids, job training for veterans, holiday, meals for seniors. What you see as a distraction, Alex continued, I see as inspiration. The Martinez family has built something remarkable, not through corporate takeovers or market manipulation, but through hard work, genuine relationships, and unwavering values. Another click showed plans for a new Karim Enterprises initiative, a partnership program to support small family-owned businesses with technology, sustainability upgrades, and educational resources, all while allowing them to maintain their independence and unique character. This is the future I envision for our company, Alex declared. Not acquiring and homogenizing successful local businesses, but helping them thrive while staying true to their roots. It's what my grandfather would have wanted. Marcus stood up, his composure cracking. This is ridiculous. You're letting your infatuation with a waitress cloud your judgment. The board can't seriously— That's enough! William Chen's voice cracked like a whip. Your mother and I taught you better than this. We taught you that success built on deception never lasts. The board members whispered among themselves, reviewing the documents. Alex could see the tide turning, but he had one more card to play. There's something else you should know, he said softly. Yesterday I offered to step down as CEO. A gasp ran through the room. Marcus's eyes lit up with triumph until Alex continued. I offered because I wanted to be sure my feelings for Bella weren't influencing my business decisions. Do you know what she said? She refused to let me even consider it. She said that running away from challenges isn't leadership. Facing them head-on is. Sarah stepped forward. The SEC has been notified of certain irregularities in recent transactions. They'll be conducting a full investigation. Marcus slumped in his chair as William Chen placed a hand on his shoulder. It's time to end this, son. You've done enough damage. The board chairman cleared his throat. I believe we've heard enough. Mr. Karim, your vision for the company's future is both innovative and aligned with our core values. As for the other matters discussed today, he glanced at Marcus. The board will need to convene a special session to address them. As the meeting adjourned, Antonio and Elena hugged Alex warmly. You did well, Hijo, Elena whispered, but there's somewhere else you need to be right now. Alex checked his phone. No messages from Bella. Where is she? Where she always is when she needs to think, Antonio smiled. In the kitchen, creating something new. Today she said something about reinventing her grandmother's flan recipe. She said sometimes the old and the new need to come together to make something better than either could be alone. Alex understood the message. He grabbed his coat, nodding goodbye to the board members who were still discussing the morning's revelations. As he reached the door, he heard William Chen call out, Young man, the older businessman said. "My wife and I would very much like to try this famous restaurant of yours someday." "Any time," Alex replied. "But call ahead. They don't take walk-ins even from billionaires." The boardroom erupted in surprised laughter, and Alex smiled as he headed for the elevator. He had a kitchen to get to, and a lesson about trust to finally, fully embrace. The kitchen of the Golden Spoon was filled with the warm caramel scent of cooking sugar when Alex arrived. He found Bella standing at the stove, intently watching a copper pot where sugar was slowly transforming into amber liquid. She didn't look up when he entered, but her shoulders tensed slightly, acknowledging his presence. "You're just in time," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "I'm trying something new with Abuela's flan recipe. Instead of traditional caramel, I'm making a spiced version with cardamom and star anise. A little bit of my history, a little bit of yours." Alex moved closer, watching as she expertly swirled the pot. "Bella, about the board meeting." "Not yet," she interrupted. "First, you're going to help me with this. Consider it a test of trust." She handed him a whisk. "Keep stirring the custard base while I work on the caramel. If you stop, it'll curdle. If I pour the caramel too late, it'll crystallize. We have to trust each other's timing." Alex took the whisk, understanding the metaphor. They worked in silence for a few minutes, moving around each other in the kitchen with an ease that spoke of something deeper than mere familiarity. "Sarah texted me about what happened," Bella finally said, still focused on her caramel, "about how you offered to step down. I needed to prove that you were more important than my position. And I needed you to understand that real love doesn't ask people to give up who they are." She added a pinch of cardamom to the caramel, the spice filling the air with its unique fragrance. "That's why I didn't come to the meeting. I needed you to handle it not because of me, but because it was the right thing to do." Alex's arm was getting tired from whisking, but he didn't dare stop. "Your parents were amazing. They showed the board what real business ethics look like." Bella smiled softly. "They've always said that running a restaurant isn't just about food. It's about creating a space where people can come together, where barriers break down over a shared meal." She tested the caramel with a spoon. "Almost ready. How's that?" "Custard looking smooth," Alex reported, "like liquid silk." "Perfect timing," she said, turning off the heat under her caramel. "Just like us." Together they assembled the flan, Bella pouring the spiced caramel into molds, while Alex carefully added the custard. As they worked, she told him about her day, about the regular customers who had noticed her distraction and offered words of encouragement, about the new dish she was developing for the fall menu. "I realize now," Alex said as they slid the molds into the water bath, "that I've been looking at everything backward. I thought I needed to protect you from my world, when really, your world was exactly what I needed all along." Bella set the timer and turned to face him. "And what about Marcus?" "The SEC investigation will take its course, but his father suggested he might benefit from some time away from the company, maybe running their charitable foundation's international programs." "Good," Bella said firmly. "He needs to learn that success doesn't have to come at someone else's expense." She checked the oven temperature one last time. "You know, while these are baking, we should talk about that community support initiative you presented to the board." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Oh? I have some ideas about expanding the culinary training program, maybe partnering with other family-owned restaurants, creating a network of mentorship opportunities." "Always thinking bigger," Alex smiled, pulling her close. "Someone wise once told me that true wealth is in the relationships we build, the lives we touch," she said, echoing her words from what felt like a lifetime ago. "Everything else is just details." The timer buzzed, and Bella reluctantly pulled away to check the flans. The kitchen filled with the aroma of spiced caramel and vanilla as she unmolded one onto a plate with practiced ease. The custard was perfectly set, the caramel sauce flowing like liquid gold. "Try it," she urged, handing Alex a spoon. The first bite was a revelation, the familiar comfort of traditional flan transformed by the subtle warmth of cardamom and the exotic note of star anise. It was neither fully traditional nor completely new, but something uniquely its own. "This is amazing," Alex said honestly. "It's like two different worlds coming together to create something better than either could be alone." Bella finished, her eyes twinkling. "Exactly." He pulled her close again, tasting the sweetness of caramel on her lips. "Just like us." Outside, the evening fog was rolling in, but inside the Golden Spoon's kitchen, everything was warm and clear. Through the service window, they could see the restaurant starting to fill up for dinner service. Regular customers mixing with business people, tourists chatting with locals, all brought together by good food and genuine hospitality. "I should get ready for service," Bella said, but she made no move to leave Alex's embrace. "I could stay and help," he offered. "I'm getting pretty good at whisking things." She laughed, the sound echoing off the steel surfaces of the kitchen. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Baby steps." "Baby steps," Alex agreed, stealing one more kiss before releasing her. "But I'm not going anywhere." And in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of the kitchen and the promise of many shared meals to come, they both knew it was true. Some ingredients, like some people, were simply meant to come together, creating something greater than the sum of their parts. The autumn breeze carried the scent of sage and rosemary from the rooftop garden, where Bella was harvesting herbs for the evening service. 3 months had passed since the dramatic board meeting, and the Golden Spoon was thriving like never before. The adjacent building, finally purchased with the help of a traditional bank loan, was undergoing renovations to become their new event space and teaching kitchen. Miss Martinez, Carlos, one of their teenage apprentices from the culinary training program, poked his head through the roof access door. "Your father says the new stove installation team is here." Bella smiled, gathering her basket of fresh herbs. The expansion was moving forward exactly as she dreamed, funded entirely through the restaurant's success and conventional financing. Alex had respected her wish to maintain financial independence, focusing instead on providing technological and logistical support through Karim Enterprises' new community partnership program. Downstairs, she found Antonio directing the installation team with his usual enthusiasm. The new kitchen was taking shape, gleaming with state-of-the-art equipment that would allow them to serve more customers while maintaining their high standards. More importantly, it would provide space for their expanding education programs. "Mi amor," Elena called from the office. "The newspaper reporter is here for the interview about the youth program." The local paper was doing a feature on the Golden Spoon's successful collaboration with other family-owned restaurants to provide culinary training and mentorship opportunities for underprivileged youth. The program had become a model for similar initiatives across the city. As Bella discussed the program's success with the reporter, she couldn't help but feel proud of how everything had evolved. The restaurant had grown without losing its soul, expanding its impact while staying true to its roots. Later that afternoon, Alex arrived for their regular menu tasting session. These had become a favorite tradition, with Bella using him as a willing guinea pig for her culinary experiments. Today, she had something special planned. "Close your eyes," she instructed, leading him to a table in the empty dining room. Alex complied, smiling. "Should I be worried?" "That depends on how adventurous you're feeling." She placed a plate in front of him. "Okay, try this." The dish was a fusion of Middle Eastern and Latin American cuisines, braised lamb seasoned with her grandmother's special spice blend, served over saffron rice with a sauce that combined traditional mole ingredients with subtle hints of za'atar and sumac. Alex's eyes widened at the first bite. "This is incredible. It's like both of our histories on a plate." "That's the idea," Bella said, sitting across from him. "I've been thinking about legacy lately. Not just preserving it, but building on it, creating something new while honoring where we came from." She watched as he savored another bite, remembering how far they'd come. Alex had changed in subtle ways over the past months. He was more relaxed, more willing to let his guard down. The sharp business suit was still there, but now he kept a spare apron in his car for impromptu cooking lessons with her father. "Speaking of legacy," Alex said, reaching for his briefcase, "I have something to show you." He pulled out a folder containing plans for Karim Enterprises' latest initiative. a foundation dedicated to supporting family-owned businesses through technology grants and educational resources. The program would help traditional businesses adapt to changing times without losing their unique character. We're calling it the Heritage Innovation Fund, he explained. The idea is to bridge the gap between old-world craftsmanship and modern business practices. And he hesitated, then continued. I was hoping you might consider being on the advisory board. Bella raised an eyebrow. Are you sure that's wise? People might talk. Let them, Alex shrugged. The board has seen what we can accomplish together. Besides, who better to advise on supporting family businesses than someone who's successfully modernized one while keeping its heart intact? Before Bella could respond, they were interrupted by excited voices from the kitchen. They found Eleanor and Antonio huddled around a laptop, watching a video call with Bella's grandmother in Miami. Abuela, Bella rushed over. I didn't know you were calling today. Mi cielo, the elderly woman beamed through the screen. I had to see how my recipes are doing in your fancy new kitchen. Her eyes twinkled as she spotted Alex. And how is my favorite taste tester? Alex greeted her warmly in Spanish, his accent still awkward but improving. Over the past months, he'd been taking lessons, determined to connect more deeply with Bella's family heritage. You should have seen him trying to roll tamales last week, Mama, Elena laughed, but he's learning. Good, Bella's grandmother nodded approvingly. A man who is willing to learn new ways of doing things while respecting the old ways, that's a man worth keeping. The kitchen filled with laughter, and Bella felt her heart swell with joy. This was what success really looked like, not just in business metrics and expansion plans, but in moments like these, where different generations and cultures came together, creating something beautiful and new. After the call ended, Bella pulled Alex aside. About the advisory board position, I'll do it on one condition. Name it. We use the Golden Spoon as a pilot location for testing new technologies and programs. That way we can work out any issues before rolling them out to other businesses. Alex grinned. Already planned on it. Sarah's team has some ideas about integrating traditional recipe management with modern inventory systems. Always thinking ahead, Bella teased, but her eyes were serious. You know, when you first walked into this restaurant, I never imagined we'd end up here. Having second thoughts? She reached up to straighten his tie, a gesture that had become habit. No, just grateful that some paths cross exactly when they're supposed to. Outside, the setting sun painted the San Francisco sky in shades of gold. And rose, while inside the Golden Spoon, two families and two traditions continued their delicate dance of preservation and progress, creating a legacy all their own. The winter rain drummed steadily against the windows of the Golden Spoon's new event space, but inside, warmth and laughter filled the air. The room was packed with familiar faces, regular customers, fellow restaurant owners, students from the culinary program, and both the Martinez and Karim families all gathered to celebrate the official opening of the expansion. Alex stood near the back, watching as Bella worked the room with natural grace. She moved easily between groups, switching from English to Spanish to Arabic. She'd been taking lessons too, making everyone feel welcome. The confident restaurant owner was a far cry from the cautious young woman who had once been suspicious of his every move. Sarah sidled up to him, champagne in hand. You're wearing that dopey smile again, cousin. I have no idea what you're talking about, Alex replied, not taking his eyes off Bella. Right, Sarah bumped his shoulder playfully. You know, the board is actually impressed with how everything's turned out. The Heritage Innovation Fund is already getting attention from other cities wanting to implement similar programs. It's all Bella's influence, Alex admitted. She showed me that growth doesn't have to mean losing what makes something special. Across the room, Antonio was giving William Chen a passionate lesson in the art of proper empanada folding at one of the new teaching stations. The older businessman, who had become a regular visitor since that fateful board meeting, was proving to be an surprisingly apt pupil. Eleanor appeared at Alex's side, pressing a plate of food into his hands. You haven't eaten all evening, Hijo. How can you judge if the new menu items are good if you don't try them? The plate held an assortment of dishes that told the story of their journey. Traditional Martinez family recipes, alongside new fusion creations that Bella had developed, each one a perfect balance of heritage and innovation. "Speaking of new things," Elena continued with a knowing smile, "that little box in your jacket pocket isn't as well hidden as you think." Alex nearly choked on his empanada. "How did you—" "A mother knows these things," she patted his arm. "Don't worry, your secret is safe with me. Though I should warn you, Antonio might cry. He's been practicing his father of the bride's speech for weeks." Before Alex could respond, Bella clinked a glass for attention. The crowd quieted as she took center stage in the teaching kitchen. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began. "When my parents first opened the Golden Spoon, their dream was simple: to create a place where food could bring people together, where every customer felt like family. Looking around this room, I see that dream has grown beyond anything they could have imagined." She gestured to the new space around them. "This expansion isn't just about serving more customers or teaching more students. It's about proving that success doesn't have to mean sacrificing your values. That tradition and progress can walk hand in hand." Bella's eyes found Alex's across the room. "Sometimes the best recipes come from unexpected combinations. Sometimes the ingredients you think won't work together create something magical." The crowd applauded, and the celebration continued. Alex watched as Bella demonstrated a new technique to some of their culinary students, her passion for teaching evident in every gesture. The young people hung on her every word, just as eager to learn about business ethics and community involvement as they were about knife skills and sauce preparation. Later, as the party wound down, Alex found Bella in the original kitchen making her grandmother's hot chocolate for the remaining guests. Without a word, he began helping her, measuring spices with the precision she had taught him. "Remember the first time you tried to help me in here?" she asked, stirring the thick chocolate. "You were so nervous about doing something wrong." "I'm still nervous about doing something wrong," he admitted, reaching into his pocket to feel the small box there. "But someone taught me that the best things in life require taking chances." Bella looked up at him, understanding dawning in her eyes. Before she could speak, they heard Antonio calling from the event space. Someone had requested a special dessert demonstration. "We should go," Bella said softly, but she didn't move. Alex took her hand, feeling the calluses earned from years of kitchen work, the strength that had helped her build something remarkable. "The guests can wait 5 minutes." He took a deep breath, then reached into his pocket. "Bella Martinez, you've taught me that real love isn't about grand gestures or perfect timing. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, and trusting in what you're building together." The hot chocolate simmered gently on the stove, filling the kitchen with its sweet aroma as two people who had once been worlds apart found their paths merging into one. The spring sun filtered through the windows of the Golden Spoon's rooftop garden, where preparations for a very special evening were underway. Herbs and edible flowers, carefully tended over the years, provided a natural backdrop for what would become one of the most important nights in the restaurant's history. Bella stood at her usual spot by the herb beds, but instead of harvesting ingredients, she was reading a weathered notebook, her grandmother's original recipe collection. The pages were stained with decades of use, marked with notes in 3 generations of handwriting. Tonight, these recipes would play a crucial role in the most intimate dinner the Golden Spoon had ever hosted. "Everything's ready downstairs," Elena said, joining her daughter. She noticed the cookbook and smiled. "Ah, Abuela's special recipes. Are you sure you want to share all our family secrets?" "They'll be family soon enough," Bella replied, touching the elegant engagement ring on her finger. The proposal in the kitchen 2 months ago had been perfect, simple, sincere, and surrounded by the aromas of cooking chocolate and spices. The rooftop had been transformed for the evening. Twinkling lights were strung overhead, and 2 long tables were set with the restaurant's best linens. Tonight would be the official joining of the Martinez and Karim families, a private dinner where both sides would share their traditional recipes and create new ones together. "Is Alex still nervous about making the baklava?" Elena asked, adjusting. "A centerpiece." Bella laughed. "Sarah's been coaching him all week. He's determined to get it perfect for his grandmother." The sound of voices drifted up from below. Alex's parents had arrived early to help with preparations. Over the past months, the two families had grown closer, finding common ground in their shared values of hard work, tradition, and adaptation to changing times. In the kitchen, Alex was indeed focused intently on layers of phyllo dough, his grandmother supervising with a mix of pride and amusement. The elderly woman had flown in from Michigan specifically for this dinner, bringing with her the family's precious collection of Middle Eastern recipes. "Habibi," she said gently, "you're thinking too much. Baklava is like love. You must be firm enough to hold it together, but gentle enough not to break it." Antonio, passing through with a tray of empanadas, nodded in agreement. Just like in the kitchen, too much control and you lose the magic. Too little and everything falls apart. Alex looked between the two grandparents, struck by how similar their cooking philosophies were, despite coming from such different traditions. This was what tonight was about, finding the connections that ran deeper than surface differences. Sarah burst into the kitchen, her arms full of fresh flowers from the market. "The guests will be here in 2 hours and you're all being philosophical about pastry. Come on, we have work to do." The next hour was a whirlwind of activity. William Chen arrived with his wife, bearing bottles of rare wine and a genuine smile. His time away from the company had changed him, softened his edges. Marcus had sent his regards from Singapore, where he was successfully running the company's international charitable initiatives. Bella changed into a simple but elegant dress that combined elements of both families' traditional styles, designed by Elena and Alex's mother working together. When she returned to the kitchen for final preparations, she found Alex waiting with a small package. "One more surprise before everyone arrives," he said, handing it to her. Inside was a beautiful leather-bound notebook, its pages blank except for the first one, which held a simple message. "For our future recipes, the ones we'll create together." Bella touched the page gently. "It's perfect." She reached under the counter and pulled out her own gift, a set of hand-forged kitchen knives, each handle inlaid with both their initials. Great minds think alike. The moment was interrupted by Carlos, now their lead apprentice chef, announcing that the first guests were arriving. The rooftop was soon filled with the sounds of warm greetings in multiple languages, laughter, and excited conversations about the menu to come. As twilight settled over San Francisco, both families gathered around the tables. The city lights began twinkling below, mixing with the strands of lights overhead to create a magical atmosphere. Each place setting had 2 menu cards, one written in English, Spanish, and Arabic, listing the evening's dishes, and another with blank spaces for sharing recipes and notes. Bella's grandmother, watching via video call from Miami, beamed as she saw everyone settled in their places. The tablet showing her face was given a place of honor at the head of the table, where she could see everything and everyone. Antonio stood to make a toast, his voice thick with emotion. "When we opened the Golden Spoon, we dreamed of creating a place where food could bring people together. Tonight, we celebrate how that dream has grown beyond these walls, beyond our family, to create connections we never imagined possible." "Hinterfin temperature," Elena continued. "In our culture, we say that to share a meal is to share your heart. Tonight, we share not just our food, but our traditions, our hopes, and our futures." Alex's father raised his glass. "In our tradition, we say that a family's strength lies in its ability to welcome new members while honoring its roots. Tonight we celebrate not the joining of 2 families, but the creation of something new and beautiful from the best of both." As the first course was served, a fusion of Middle Eastern and Latin American flavors that represented both families' culinary heritage, Bella looked around the table. She saw her father teaching Alex's younger cousins the proper way to fold empanadas, while Alex's grandmother shared her secret spice blend with Elena. Sarah was deep in conversation with Carlos about modernizing traditional recipes, while William Chen and his wife discussed possible expansions of the culinary training program with Antonio. This was more than a pre-wedding family dinner. It was a testament to what could happen when people opened their hearts to new possibilities while honoring where they came from. It was proof that the best recipes, like the best relationships, were built on a foundation of respect, trust, and willingness to try something new. 1 year later, the Golden Spoon's rooftop garden was once again transformed, this time for a celebration that brought together not just two families, but an entire community. The herb beds were in full bloom, their fragrance mixing with the salt air from the bay, creating a perfect San Francisco evening. Bella stood at the railing, taking in the view of her beloved city. The restaurant below was humming with activity. They had closed early for this private celebration, but tomorrow would bring the launch of their newest initiative, a citywide program teaching culinary arts and business skills to immigrant entrepreneurs. "Penny for your thoughts," Alex's voice came from behind her, and she turned to see him carrying 2 glasses of her father's special sangria. "Just thinking about how far we've come," she replied, accepting a glass. "Remember when you first walked into the restaurant? You looked so out of place in your perfect suit. And you looked so unimpressed by it," he laughed. "Best thing that ever happened to me." The past year had brought changes to both their lives, but they had faced them together. The Heritage Innovation Fund was thriving, helping family-owned businesses across the city modernize while maintaining their unique character. The Golden Spoon had become a model for sustainable growth, proving that success didn't require sacrificing. Authenticity. Their wedding ceremony earlier that day had been a beautiful blend of traditions held in the restaurant's event space where their story had really begun. Bella had walked down an aisle sprinkled with rose petals and za'atar, while both grandmother's special recipes were served alongside modern fusion dishes created by the culinary program's graduates. Now, as evening settled over the city, their closest friends and family gathered for an intimate reception on the rooftop. The space was filled with the sounds of multiple languages, laughter, and music that bridged cultures and generations. Sarah, who had caught the bouquet with suspicious accuracy, was teaching Bella's cousins a traditional Arabic dance. William Chen, now retired and much happier, was sampling every dish with the enthusiasm of a food critic, while his wife discussed expansion plans with Elena. The Golden Spoon's successful model was being adapted for other family restaurants across the city. Marcus had returned from Singapore for the wedding, a changed man. His time running the International Charitable Foundation had given him a new perspective on success and legacy. He stood chatting with Carlos, who had recently been promoted to head chef of the Golden Spoon's new training kitchen. Antonio emerged from downstairs, carrying a special surprise, a wedding cake that told their story in layers. Each tier featured flavors from both their cultural backgrounds, decorated with edible herbs and flowers from the very garden where they now stood. The cake stood as a testament to their journey, a perfect blend of tradition and innovation, just like their love. "Before we cut the cake," Bella announced, getting everyone's attention, "Alex and I have an announcement to make." Alex squeezed her hand as she continued. "The Golden Spoon has always been about family, about creating a place where people can come together and feel at home. Today, we're expanding that family in more ways than one." She placed a hand on her stomach, and the rooftop erupted in joyful exclamations. Elena burst into happy tears, while Alex's mother hugged them both. Antonio and Alex's father immediately began debating what the baby's first solid food should be. "I guess we'll need to add a high chair to the kitchen," Alex smiled, holding Bella close. "And baby-proof the spice rack," she added with a laugh. "This little one will grow up surrounded by the best of both worlds." As they cut the cake together, Bella looked around at their gathered loved ones. The Golden Spoon had grown far beyond her parents' original dream, becoming not just a restaurant, but a symbol of what was possible when people dared to cross boundaries and blend traditions. The evening continued with more dancing, more laughter, and more sharing of recipes and stories. Someone had set up a projector, displaying photos from their journey. Alex's first attempt at making tortillas, Bella learning Arabic from his grandmother, their families working together to expand the restaurant's community programs. Later, as the party wound down, they found themselves back at the railing, looking out over the city lights. The fog was rolling in, but for once it didn't feel like an ending. Instead, it felt like a gentle blanket being drawn over their perfect day. "So," Alex said, pulling Bella close, "what's next for us?" She smiled, thinking of all the possibilities. Ahead, the baby on the way, the expanding restaurant, their shared dreams for the future. I think we'll write that recipe as we go along. After all, the best dishes are the ones that leave room for inspiration. As long as we're cooking them together, he replied, kissing her softly. Below them, the golden spoon stood as a testament to their journey, a place where cultures merged, traditions evolved, and love proved that the most unexpected ingredients often made the perfect blend. And above them, the stars twinkled like the lights from that first fundraiser, reminding them that sometimes the best things in life happen when you're brave enough to trust, to grow, and to let love transform you into something even better than you were before.